Sure. So our city council districts we have 9 of them, and they're arranged based on population. And so every 10 years when the census is conducted, those populations shift and move around. Some parts of town grow faster than others. And in order to keep all of our city council districts in relative equal population bases for the next decade, we have an election district commission that goes through and looks at basically how those population bases have shifted and adjusts the boundary lines of council districts accordingly so that we can be sure that every citizen has equal representation on the city council, that you don't have a ton of people living in one district and not a lot of people in another. And I'll give you a good example, because I went through this back in 2010 as a counselor. What the census showed us then was, and it shouldn't be a surprise, South Tulsa was growing very quickly and North Tulsa's population had declined substantially. And what that meant was the district boundaries for the council districts that comprise North Tulsa from a geographic standpoint had to be expanded to take in the correct number of people, which for us is around 45,000 people per district. When you have 9, our population overall is about 400,000. So we had to have districts 1 and 3 in particular in North Tulsa expand to the south, and then you had to have districts that were in the southern part of the city compact because you had more people living in them, and so you need to make them smaller so they would have an equivalent number. For me, what that meant, being a counselor for District 9, is that I had previously had a district that went from 21st Street to 61st Street. Then, for the second half of my time on the council, the northern boundary of my district was 31st Street. And that was decided by the Election District Commission. Well, again, the Election District Commission was an entity that was formed when we created the City Council in 1989. And up until 4 years ago, we had partisan elections in city races. And so the way that commission was organized was that the Tulsa County Republican Party would appoint 2 people, the Tulsa County Democratic Party would appoint 2 people, and then the mayor would appoint a person. And those 5 people would make the decisions about where those boundaries should be. Well, in the intervening time since we did this the last time, we had a charter amendment overwhelmingly passed by the voters that created nonpartisan elections in Tulsa. But they didn't, when they made that charter amendment, they forgot to change the Election District Commission to also operate in such a way. And so right now, those boundaries are still, you can still have the 4 of the 5 members of that commission appointed by the Tulsa County Republican Party, Tulsa County Democratic Party. And what this is proposing to do is simply to say that those members are appointed by the mayor along the same, basically, division lines they were in the past. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and an independent. But now they'd be appointed by the mayor and they would have to be confirmed by the council. So it just takes it out of being, since it's a nonpartisan process, being in the hands of inherently partisan organizations to being something that's done through the city government.
And at the same time, we did a few other tweaks, and we looked at a lot. I was part of the group that did the research on this. We could not find a single other city anywhere that had nonpartisan elections that had a partisan system. This has actually been something that a lot of cities and states have really worked through to how do you make this a more neutral, data-driven process. And so we pulled from a lot of different communities to try to come up with this. We also required that no 2 of these can be for the same council district. One of the concerns that we've had in the past is sometimes, regardless of party, you basically had all people coming from one viewpoint in one part of town. And so that was a way we thought would help ensure that you're getting some representation from different parts of town. And we put in as, I forget the exact word, it's not, they're not requirements, but, things that we want to be considered. It's required by law that the population is equal and that you can't break apart precincts, but we also wanted them to consider, and sometimes you'll have to balance these things, to try to keep neighborhoods together, and look at other geographic boundaries. So we have a few, like for example, Fulton neighborhood is split sort of right down the middle. Half of it's in my council district, half of it's in Councilor Gilbert's council district. And I mean, we work together for them, but it does make it harder when somebody there has a problem trying to read. They literally have to go and say, oh, on your side of the street, I should call Councilor Gilbert. And so, you know, it's just, it's a little bit more functional. We also included that we want to make sure in this, some would argue has been done, but I don't think it's been a huge problem for us in Tulsa so far, but it's definitely been in some parts of town that you get in the wrong hands, people have used gerrymandering to dilute minority or other party vote or things like that. So we made clear that the guidelines are that those should not be factors for the use. So the goal is, again, just to make this as neutral, as just focus on what makes sense and not trying to favor one party or one part of town or one, you know, mindset or anything, and make it as equal as possible. The way it's worded is the political party having the largest number of registered voters. Two are with that, two are with the second, one is with the third. So if that ever changes, yes, the numbers would change to reflect that. So we thought we were being clever, and then so
Independents are not a
That's not-
political party.
Not what you have on the ballot.
Yeah. No, it is, I think, if I'm reading
Oh,
this
yeah.
correctly, to the point, I mean, it's
yeah, you're
that, you know, if independents represented the majority, they would need to have, right now, independents are independent. There isn't an independent party.
yeah, that's right. I forgot because of the way it is on the party. We tried to do that, and then they came back to say that when.
So then, which leads into these two questions. Now that the Libertarian Party is recognized by the state, should they also have a seat on the district? Why or why not? And this person said, would this exclude Libertarians from being appointed?
So the way this is organized, it doesn't say a party name. So if Libertarians made up one of the two largest political parties in town, they would have 2 seats on this. Or if the person is a registered independent but happens to be Libertarian, they would be a candidate to be appointed to it.
So
I
no,
don't understand. I think maybe.
It's my question. My question is, right now, Libertarians are a recognized political party in Oklahoma.
Yes,
So they don't register as independent, they're registered as Libertarian.
yes.
So if they're not number 1 or number 2, and then the person, John Smith, is not registered independent but registered Libertarian, they would then be excluded as participating on the commission.
Yes,
So is that unconstitutional?
I don't think so.
By
I mean,
excluding
I'm not a
somebody
constitutional lawyer though,
that has.
or a
that
lawyer
has-
in any way.
Has anybody run that through the city legal to ask that question?
All of these have been thoroughly vetted by city legal and drafted by the city legal department.
If I was gonna ask city legal, who would I contact?
Mark Sweeney is the assistant city attorney who worked on all of these.
so kind of following up with her question on this proposition, is there like a state statute that this has to follow in some way, or is this just strictly city?
This is the best effort at finding a way to have a nonpartisan arrangement. And by the way, I think it's important to recognize the key characteristic for people that would be appointed to this is not their political party. The purpose of this is so that, I mean, if you're going to say, well, it's just nonpartisan and so the mayor should just appoint 5 people and the council can confirm them. The purpose of this is to make sure that whoever the mayor happens to be when that occurs doesn't just appoint 5 libertarians or 5 Republicans or 5 Democrats, that there is some